Welcome back to TLDR's daily briefing for Monday, the 24th of February, 2025. In today's episode, we cover Ukraine's war anniversary, Macron in Washington, D.C., and Israel's operation in the occupied West Bank. But first, the 2025 German federal election. On Sunday, Germans went to the polls to vote for their next government. The election was won by the centre-right Christian Democratic Union, or CDU, with 28.5% of the vote, meaning the party's leader, Friedrich Merz, will likely become Germany's next chancellor. Addressing the CDU headquarters after the exit poll, Merz said his party had successfully waged a tough campaign, engaging with a range of issues including the economy, migration, and security. He also pledged to get on with forming a government with a solid majority as quickly as possible, saying the world will not wait for long coalition talks. Merz also specified that he wanted to have a coalition formed by Easter, giving himself a timeline of 8 weeks. So, what were the biggest takeaways from the election? Well, aside from the CDU coming first, the other headline story was the strong performance of the far-right Alternative für Deutschland, or AfD party, which finished second with 20.8% of the vote, double what it recorded at the last federal election. However, Germany's political parties have a traditional Brandmauer or firewall against working with the far right, and Merz has rejected a coalition with the AfD. As such, it will remain in opposition for the next 4 years. Another big story was the surprising resurgence of Germany's socialist left party, Die Linke. Having been polling at around 5% for months before the 2025 election, in January, Die Linke experienced a surge in support and managed to finish fifth with 8.8% of the vote. This was largely driven by first-time voters and 18 to 24-year-olds, among whom Die Linke finished first. Ultimately, though, the results of Germany's 2025 election suggest a very fractured political environment. The two historically biggest parties, the CDU and centre-left SPD, received their lowest collective vote share ever, while the far-right AfD recorded its best ever result. Whether Merz can assemble and lead a moderate coalition that keeps both German and European politics stable over the next 4 years will be a major challenge, one that Merz acknowledged on Sunday. He said, "I understand the dimensions of the task ahead, and I will be taking it on with great respect." You're listening to TLDR's Daily Briefing. If you want more explainers on what's happening in the world, then you should check out TLDR's YouTube channels. Today, we released a full video on the German election results. You can find it linked in the description or show notes for this episode, or by searching for TLDR on YouTube. With today marking the 3rd anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, more than a dozen Western leaders have visited Ukraine in a show of support for the country, as uncertainty and doubt looms over the American commitment to its defense. It is a somber anniversary, and no major events were planned apart from an international summit in Kyiv on supporting Ukraine. At the event, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said the West must increase the pressure even further on Russia, and announced fresh sanctions on the country. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez said Spain would provide a new €1 billion military aid package to Ukraine this year, and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said, "We are in Kyiv today because Ukraine is Europe. In this fight for survival, it is not only the destiny of Ukraine that is at stake." Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky hailed his country's, quote, "absolute heroism," adding, "May the memory of all those who gave their lives for our state and people be eternal." Meanwhile, at the time of writing, French President Emmanuel Macron is at the White House meeting with US President Donald Trump, on a hastily planned visit amid transatlantic tensions and alarm in Europe over Trump's overtures to Russia and public clashes with Ukraine's President Zelensky. Macron, and later UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who is visiting Trump on Thursday, is expected to try and convince the US president not to rush a peace deal with Russia, and to include Ukraine and Europe in the process. Ahead of the visit, Macron outlined his approach, telling reporters, "I will tell him, deep down you cannot be weak in the face of President Putin. It's not you, it's not what you're made of, and it's not in your interests." In other news, Israel has deployed tanks to the occupied West Bank for the first time in more than 2 decades, as the Israeli military intensifies operations in the Palestinian territory that it says will continue for the coming year. Israel launched this fresh offensive in the occupied West Bank on January the 21st, 2 days after the ceasefire began in Gaza. Since then, some 40,000 Palestinians have been displaced from refugee camps in the northern West Bank, with the Israeli military being ordered to, quote, prepare for an extended stay in the camps that were cleared for the coming year and not to allow the return of residents or for terror to grow again. Israel says it is seeking to stamp out terrorist activity in the area. The Palestinian Foreign Ministry called Israel's latest moves a dangerous escalation and urged the international community to intervene. That's all for today. We'll be back with you tomorrow, so make sure you're subscribed wherever you listen. In the meantime, if you want to support the show, then consider grabbing a copy of our physical magazine, Too Long. The next edition, coming out in April, covers the world's 25 most influential people, as ranked by us, the TLDR team, and you, the TLDR audience. Inside, we unpack who these influential people are, explain how they got their influence, and tell stories about how they choose to wield this immense power. The entire thing is beautifully designed, contains a bunch of other stories, and runs over 72 pages of our best journalism. If you're interested, then use the code TLDRDaily at checkout to get £2 off your copy, which brings the cost of a subscription down as low as £5.99. Buying Too Long helps to fund all of our journalism, so make sure you do check it out. This was a TLDR News production hosted by Georgina Findlay, written by Georgina Findlay and Rory Taylor, and produced by Scarlett Watchorn. Thanks for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow.